I've got another one from the history books for you today. I found this one in Jim Quick's 1957 Trout Fishing and Trout Flies. The pattern is called the Sierra Caddis, and this is the only book I've seen it in. Not to say that this hasn't been written about before, but I did check about a half a dozen of my other books that it might have been in and didn't see any reference to it anywhere, and I didn't see any mention of it online either. It's just another deer hair wing caddis dry fly, but this one's a little unique in that it has a peacock herl body and it's got a bright green egg sac at the butt. Now I did try this out recently and it's not a real high floater, but it does float pretty well and I fished it through some pretty fast choppy water. I did end up getting 2 fish with it and I missed 3, one of them which was pretty big. So it definitely got their attention on a day when there were no bugs out and no fish rising. So I do have some hope for this thing. So there it is in the vise, a Sierra Caddis from Jim Quick's 1957 Trout Fishing and Trout Flies. Tying this on a size 12 standard length barbless dry fly hook. And I'm going to use an olive thread. I think black would be just fine with this one, but we do have a couple of green components in it. I think it'll work all right. So let's put a little wax on our thread and then take some green dubbing. Insect green, bright green, caddis green. It's an egg sac, little bulb back here, kind of a butt section. Now I'm going to use a kind of a bright green. This is a UV, I think. It's not an ice dub, but it's kind of like that, synthetic. If I'm going to go through the trouble of putting an egg sac butt on it, I want it to kind of be prominent. So let's go ahead and wrap this up, get us a little bulb back here. Is that big enough? Yeah, I think so. We could probably go a little bigger if we wanted, but I think we're going to be just fine. So take your thread up front. We're going to catch in some peacock herl. We're just going to do 2 strands for the body. I could snip off the front couple of inches or just put a couple of tight wraps and maybe break them off right there. Now we'll take it back. Oh, need to watch the point of my hook here. And we're going to wrap it up to about right there where we're going to catch in a wing. But I'm going to leave my thread about midway, so in case these start spreading out on me, that thread will hold them together. Now I suppose you could put a real thin wire in here to make these a little more durable. I haven't been, but you know, up to you if you want to do that little extra step. Okay, I think that is enough of a body there. Now let's take a little tuft of deer hair, and this one is a kind of a dun color with some lighter tips. It's actually a coastal deer. So a small tuft in my stacker. Okay, that's going to be fine. And let's measure the length, maybe a little bit past the bend of the hook, a little bit past that butt. So I'm going to hold it right there. I'm going to spin this thread clockwise and cord it up a little bit, and it is going to flare. The front is definitely going to flare on us, and that is fine. Several wraps, but what I do in flies like this and my elk hair caddis, I will snip it off, trim this front before I let go, because as soon as you let go, that in the back is going to jump up on you, and then it would be a little harder to trim this while you have those back hairs going up. So just take your time on this and be careful not to snip your thread. Nothing worse than hearing your bobbin drop and land on your desk when you snip that thread there. So we've got this, and okay, it's a little bit shaggy right here, but let's go ahead and put a few wraps right in here to really lock it in, and we can trim it again in a second. But watch this, as soon as I let it go, it's going to flare way up. Okay, it didn't go too far up, but we don't really want it that high up. So what you do here, take a couple of medium wraps going back, and that will kind of help lay it down. And now we can do tighter wraps going forward. But let's take our smaller scissors and then just try to sculpt this, flatten it out a little bit here. Okay, a little ugly, but it's going to do. I'm just going to throw a few loose wraps right here, leave my thread at the back, and then take a piece of the hackle. And I'm going to go with a dun color. That's what this recipe calls for, but I think you could probably do any color you want. So just dry fly hackle. I think this is from a Whiting Bronze Cape. That's going to be about how long I want right there. And let's prep this feather and just go ahead and tie it in. Probably going to do 3 or 4 wraps, depending on the quality of your hackle, how many barbs it's going to be laying down. I left that stem in all the way up forward just to try to minimize any lumps right there. But let's go ahead and wrap this and see what it does for us. Okay, that's 3 full wraps right there. I think that's going to be enough. 4, and it would be a little bit bushier than I might want. This will definitely help it float, but you know, so will that deer hair wing. Let's go ahead and snip this excess. And we can pull this back a little bit. I don't want them swept back, so I'm not taking my thread too far back, just pulling it back enough to make some room for a whip finish right there. And let's see if we can get this in here without trapping any of these hairs going forward. Kind of do a little zigzag maneuver here. And I didn't. I got a couple going forward. So we'll just take care of these right here and put a drop of head cement on it. And then take a look at it. And I think we got a fishable fly here. It's a little bit shaggy, but you know what? That's okay. It's going to be shaggy after a couple fish anyway. So that's it, my friends, the Sierra Caddis. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.